Folks, I'm always asked, how do I know where to enter a market? Where do I know where to exit a market? And how do I know what to trade? Well, I do it through a concept I call the 24-hour market, and then taking it down a level to how does that 24-hour market break down? Well, I'm going to cover that and hopefully provide you a great resource for your review that you can use when you're trying to decide whether to be long, short, or out. But always remember, there's a high degree of risk involved in trading, and past performance is not indicative of future results. Let's talk about how to handle DTI reference bars. Every day in the market starts not in the morning, but in the evening. It's based on a 24-hour market. What are reference bars? They're 30-minute bars, candles that we place at key times of the day. These reference bars take us through the night, morning, and afternoon during that 24-hour day. They give us key numbers that we use to trade off of, and they will help you with market timing, which if you can get this down, you're going to improve your results. That clarity to our intraday market analysis is there for everybody to see. We don't hide from it, and we try to get everybody to use this approach. Now, the reference bars is a combination. First, it's RB1, which kicks off the Asian market. That's in the evening. Now, I tell people that is the way we start each day. You want to observe things such as what the opening was, what the high was, what the low was. The next reference bar happens in the middle of the night. Hopefully, you've had some sleep. You wake up. We call this the European Open from 4:30 to 5. Again, you're trying to determine, is the market going up after this time? Is it going sideways after this time? Or is it going down? And then at 7 o'clock, we have what we call RBX, the X bar. This is when trading in the U.S. in the cash market can happen. From 7 a.m. to 7:30, you can go into the market and see cash tickers trade. Gives you an indication of what happened overnight in Asia and Europe, how it plays out in that early morning trade. I would say very lucrative if you'll learn it. A lot of lucrative things can happen to you by learning the pre-market. Now, at 9:30, the day starts. This is one that most people think is when the market opens, even though it's been open from the previous night all through the time you were sleeping. We call it the very first reference bar of the day, but we call it RB3. This is the cash market opening and gives us that direction for the market from 9:30 to 10. 11:30 to 12 is we call the Genesis bar. This is where Europe closes. 1:30 to 2 is either our reversal or acceleration bar. I call it lunchtime in America from 1:30 to 2. And then finally, we close up the day at 3:30 to 4. This is the closing bell and leads us in to the next cycle in Asia. Now, let's talk about the 6 p.m. to 6:30 time frame, RB1. I look at the following. Should I be long, short, or out? Well, how do I know? First, I must know 3 simple patterns. What a buy signal looks like, where that bar after that reference bar is either higher, in this case, or what a sell signal looks like, where it's lower, and whether it's in between, I should stay out. And folks, I pay attention to the opening, high, and low of that reference bar throughout the time frame. It's the number one focus in Asia. 2 markets outside that are cash markets you can look at are the Nikkei and the Hang Seng. Now, adding that reference bar for extra confirmation tells you that bar after whether to be long or short. If you're wrong, you get a reversal. It tells you that trend was a false breakout. That's what I'm looking for. Now, here's what set up last night. Notice Asia was very bullish. Above that reference bar, you should have been long. You could have bought the S&P. You could have bought the NQ. You could have bought the Dow and made money. Or you could have bought stocks on TD Ameritrade to trade. That's the SPY and the QQQ. You could have done that last night. A lot of people don't know that. You can trade that 24 hours, those tickers. Now, last night I have a special room I call T&T where I will put out information that I think is very instrumental in helping these people make money. And last night I said, here's a video I created just for this particular time frame. A lot of people, I call it fat in their nest last night because they were in that particular room where I give us this kind of information. Hey, Doesn't happen every night, but sometimes when it sets up, I try to let you know. Now, when you wake up in the morning, you have RB2, that's 4:30 to 5. And you got to ask yourself, after Europe, you had that run before, whether it was down or up, is the market going to reverse or is it going to accelerate? And should I be long, short, or out? Always that question. Well, how are you going to know? Well, this morning, for example, it was a sideways market, and it could not break higher or lower following it, so you would have stayed out. We had big news on this day. CPI is always big news. And then, of course, we get into the cash market, and you look at the news announcement bar and that wide range that we had, that will define the day. You get above that, I would expect higher. Below that, I would expect lower. We call that bar RBX. And then, of course, we got the 930, and for the whole world to see, on reference bar number 3, we went higher. Rest, you can read about it in the Wall Street Journal. Market surged after that setup. Then we get to midday. Well, midday is where you're going to get a reversal or you're going to get an acceleration. We call this bar the start of the time frame. Should you be long, short, or out? This is where you might make longer-term positions, not day trades, when you're looking into the market. This is a very key bar for making that decision. And you got Europe closed and will not open again until 4:30 the following night, 4:30 Eastern time. And then, of course, RB4. This bar is sort of a famous bar. I call it lunchtime in America. Think about it. Across America, they're having lunch. Well, the key time is 1:30 to 2. You can use that time to make money by seeing an acceleration of the current trend from the morning or a reversal. Always look for it during that time frame. And you ask that question, should I be long, short, or out? I call that the start of the California market. If you think about it, that's when California's going to start playing in there when you equate Eastern time. And yet another time for you to check. In fact, remember these 3 times from an Eastern basis, 10, 12, and 2. During a day, if you got positions on, those are times you want to check those positions. That's where you can lose some profit, have profit turn to a loss. That's when things are going to change. And that's a good way to remember, 10, 12, and 2. Last but not least is our closing bell trade. A lot of people like to trade into the close. I do. But the real benefit is getting the setup for Asia. Take that closing bell bar and compare it to that 6 o'clock bar, which is the start of a new day. You get higher in both those numbers, you probably got an early Asian trade. Just a tip or insight. Take 15 minutes, you should know your answer. Folks, this is the reference bars. I hope I put it together for you in an understandable fashion. There's not a day that goes by I don't follow these bars. That's one reason I'll attribute to a lot of success I've had with timing, because before I take that trade, I'm checking that ticker out on the reference bar approach. Inside the roadmap, you can do that. As I always say, see you on the flip side.